This is the day you have trained for. The day you have studied for. Utilize your superior skills. Your superior intelligence.
Sit down, rodent!
Sarah, baby? Oh, you were one fly.
Don't make me hurt you.
Learn to defeat your ruthless enemy, Steve of Hackensack.
Brian, you're gonna get roofed.
Shut up, quadruped.
Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
It's 2021, and gaming consoles have entered yet another period of innovation, taking the next step into the future of gaming with the newest pieces of hardware like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. However, for individuals who are most fascinated with the historical aspects of gaming and the hardware of the past in general, along with said new consoles, are collections of video game relics from as far back as the 70s. Retro video game collecting is a massive subset in the gaming resale market and is also a marketing tool for the biggest names in gaming, weaponizing nostalgia for profit. Nevertheless, the consoles of the past remain in the spotlight. There are still countless owners of PS2s, N64s, GBAs, 360s, and many more iconic pieces. But there was always one that seemed to exist in a different space from not only retro consoles in general, but even the ones that were its competitors back at the turn of the century. One that entered the market strongly, only to get buried by the consoles that trailed it. One that showed enough heart to give the industry's best underdog story one final stand. One that kept the dream alive. Of course, that console is the Sega Dreamcast. Let's talk about it. Close your eyes for a second and think about the video game market in the late 90s. Sony had just blown the door down wide open with their 3D operated PlayStation, while Nintendo had the Nintendo 64, a technical enigma that had a turbulent rollout for the big N standards and a product that reeked of both classic Nintendo iconicity and stubbornness. Yet, it still won the long race between themselves and their polarizing rivals, the last piece of the market, Sega. See, as where Nintendo was coming off of the success of the SNES, and Sony was focused on making the most disruptive entrance into the industry as possible, Sega was pressed on staying afloat. After the Cinderella story of the Genesis, many unfortunate circumstances on both Sega's part and the parts out of their control left the company to trudge through the remainder of the decade with the failures of the Sega CD, the 32X, and the Sega Saturn. It's a topic I look to dig into in much greater depth in a video in its own. So to keep things short, we'll only discuss the final chapter. Nevertheless, Sega's struggles put whatever that would become of Sega's follow-up to the Saturn in a very tough spot. And in 1998, the Sega Dreamcast would surface. The console would come out sizzling hot in the States, selling 225,000 Dreamcasts at launch and 500,000 in the first 2 weeks alone. By the third month, that number would reach a full million. And by 2000, the system began to outslug the N64. So what went wrong? In only under a year after the Dreamcast arrived, Sony would introduce their follow-up to their debut system, the PlayStation 2. It would become the highest-selling video game console of all time, absolutely enforcing a death grip and stranglehold on the market. For companies like Nintendo, the storm that was the PS2 only rained on their parade. Nintendo would continue to keep their tunnel vision going into the millennium and would announce the GameCube soon after. But for a company like Sega that was already going through a disaster of miscellaneous issues piled up from the previous 7 years, Sony's new superstar would completely sink them. Despite the initial success in the US, their Dreamcast wasn't as dominant in other vital markets like Japan, and the negatives would outweigh the positives. By the next year, Sega would already announce the discontinuation of the Dreamcast. With the Xbox gaining its market share, and with the GameCube on the horizon, Sega just didn't have anything left in the tank, and so they withdrew from the hardware market. All that remained was the lasting image of their final effort and its offerings. But what exactly were its offerings? Fast forward 20 years and we reach the present day. And if you're one of the many who still have this box of dreams sitting around like I do, I'm sure you already know the gems that this system has in its library. But if you're just deciding to invest in a Dreamcast for your collection and are looking for a place to start, here's a rundown of what the console entails and a sample of some of the games in my little library. To start, the Sega Dreamcast is a 128-bit 6th generation console with a 200 MHz CPU and a 100 MHz GPU, and both CD and GD-ROMs as its media ports. Also with 4 controller ports for the very strange Dreamcast controller. I mean seriously, I'm not fond of this controller whatsoever. It's pretty massive and top heavy, especially if you brought the jump pack rumble accessory for it. The analog stick is terrible and the triggers aren't anything to write home about either. If you're looking to play the console frequently, I recommend looking into a third-party controller like this one from Retro Fighters that is pretty popular. That being said, the most noteworthy offering from the Dreamcast controller is the Visual Memory Unit. Shortened to VMU, it doubled as the console's memory card and a miniature handheld game device in itself, featuring a small LCD screen that would show images related to whatever game you played and a small D-pad, buttons, and watch battery for playing mini games away from the system. Other than that, the model build and the standard pale gray / whitish color of the console itself are pretty clean. And although I'm a black console guy, I wasn't willing to pay the price for a black Dreamcast, despite how good it looked. I mean, wow, do you see that? Start up the console and the first thing you'll notice is that the Dreamcast is and it sounds like the disk drive is 2 seconds away from combusting 24/7. However, once you tune out the console's white noise, you can focus on the most important part, the games. Let's finally get into some ones I want to highlight if you're ready to join the Dreamers.
No. What is it, Iverson-san?
I'm getting worked under the boards, Taka.
Show rebound stance. Whoa! Bamboo reed need deep root for strength.
Go. Here it comes. Give it to Where'd he learn that?
NBA 2K on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
My first recommendation would have to be Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes. This game has been consensus as one of the best fighting games the system has to offer. While MVC2 has since been ported to several consoles following its launch in arcades in the year 2000, the version available on the Dreamcast has been regarded as the best one by critics. With 56 playable characters between the universes of both Capcom and Marvel, the games are full of clean sprites, charming music, and arcade levels of supercharged 3-on-3 fighting chaos. The level of enjoyment that is consistently present when playing MVC2, even after playing in countless rounds, is strong due to the numerous incentives available in the game, from alternate skins to unlocking a drove of additional fighters.
Game rated T for teen.
Yeah, I'm here for my license.
Get behind that yellow line.
Yeah, I know. License, please.
You better get out of my face. You ain't gonna get your pump license
Yeah,
back.
I
Look what
know.
I got on you. You drive through the mall, someplace city line. You got the
That was some big air.
What's your problem?
Hey, that's what I get paid for. I made some serious cake that day.
Crazy Taxi on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Crazy Taxi is another arcade gem delivered directly to home console through the Dreamcast. The open world racer is a rush of up-tempo, pursuing tumult, marinated in the style and attitude of its era. The gist of the game involves picking up customers and reaching their destinations in an extremely speedy and endangering fashion. As another critically acclaimed port, the game's addictive and high adrenaline gameplay cements itself as one of the premier titles under the Dreamcast library. From the real-world locations referenced in the game to the wacky voice performances throughout, There aren't many other titles that can replicate the charm of Crazy Taxi.
Got it made, Randy. You have no idea how it was back in the Genesis days. We couldn't think, couldn't adjust. Look what you got. My receivers couldn't do that, and our defense sucked. You'll never get beat by the same whack play over and over. You better appreciate what you got, Junior. Hey, let me go.
I think Ojimbo got hold of a bad taco.
Hey, I'm a legend.
NFL 2K on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Next is Samba de Amigo, and it is yet another arcade hit turned port and Sonic Team's take on a rhythm title. The game itself is simple enough in concept, where the player must match the actions on beat with the numerous Latin songs that encompass the stages of Samba de Amigo. Aside from the classic mode, the game features some entertaining minigames that capitalize off of the unique maraca controllers that the title is developed around. If you're interested in the game and don't care about price and want to definitely get the best experience out of the gameplay, I recommend picking up the maracas with the 1999 gem.
Coming to a Dreamcast near you. You will feel the passion of Soul Calibur.
Man, she's off the hook. Oh, perfect.
Soul Calibur on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Returning to fighting games, I present one of the Dreamcast American launch titles, 1998's Soul Calibur. This weapon-based 3D fighter is the second highest selling title for Sega's 6th generation Swan Song, pushing over 1 million in sales by the end of 1999. Soul Calibur's Dreamcast port completely fleshed out the already successful arcade title, adding a handful of new modes and mechanics, while also showcasing the console's power to improve and optimize arcade hits in the home market. All while the game itself is still an innovative and fascinating fighter amongst its competition. Because of this, Soul Calibur would go on to be one very highly regarded game. And when I mean highly, I mean very highly. It is often discussed as the greatest game on the Dreamcast and is rated one of the greatest ever amongst critics and media.
Game rated T15.
Move it, bug.
Come on, now, give it up for Ooh La La. Hey, nice pixels, coach.
Check it out, chicks dig the rump shaking.
Yeah, she's grooving on that.
Gentlemen, need I remind you that the female of the species is our natural enemy?
Hey, get up there. She wants you.
Hey, baby, come to Papa.
Oh, heavens!
Bad dancing. It's a killer.
Space Channel 5 on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Space Channel 5 is interesting, to say the least. The game intrigues me heavily and is likely a title I'll spend an entire video in itself discussing sometime soon. But for now, all I can say on Space Channel 5 is that it is an extremely charming and quirky music-oriented rail rhythm hybrid. You play as Ulala, a reporter who works under the titular news station in a space setting where news factions often compete in song and dance. If that doesn't sound odd enough, aliens invade and you have to take them down. Due to this niche plot surrounding the title, coupled with it being the first title I've mentioned so far without any arcade origins, the game had less of a foundation before its release on the system in 1999. Because of that, it sold poorly. Nevertheless, it has still been recognized as a gem in the music game genre, and one that I definitely appreciate. Oh, and did I mention Michael Jackson makes a cameo appearance?
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling the love.
You feel the glove, But what's your name?
Scary Payton, but they call me the glove.
How you feeling tonight?
Yo, I'm feeling the love.
Feel the love, glove?
Yo, Sonic! Man, stay off the light speed.
My bad.
Sonic Adventure on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
And of course, you can't talk about the offering of a Sega console without including the company's golden child, Sonic the Hedgehog. And for the Dreamcast, the Blue Blur entered the 6th generation of gaming in the highly anticipated Sonic Adventure. Releasing in 1998 as one of the system's debut titles, Adventure inserts the beloved franchise in a 3D platformer that is formatted in stories spanning 6 different characters. The gameplay of Sonic Adventure varies drastically depending on which character's story you run with. Characters like Sonic and Tails have more traditional, third-dimensional iterations of familiar Sonic gameplay, while others like Big the Cat and Knuckles have more alternative gameplay. Sonic Adventure is an ambitious and large title, featuring hub worlds, open travel, and even the VMU-based Chao Garden. However, due to set ambitions, combined with the lack of power of the Dreamcast and a generally poor aesthetic of most games in the transitional period into 3D in gaming in retrospect, the title has a lot of glitches, graphical issues, and flat-out broken gameplay segments. The voice acting and audio mixing are abysmal as well. Regardless of that, the sheer brand power of the Sonic series, paired with the game's raw attitude, straightforward plot, and impact on the industry, made Sonic Adventure a commercial juggernaut, easily claiming the title of the best-selling game on the Dreamcast. And it would be a given to view this game as a must-have when building a Dreamcast library. Another must-have would be the title's 2001 follow-up, but that's a video for a later date. So there was just a handful of samples of the surplus of great games that lie within the Dreamcast library. Hopefully, if you're looking to acquire a Dreamcast in 2021, you'll pick up a few of these titles along with it. The Dreamcast is a special console, sometimes for negative reasons, but mostly for good. All things considered, it is an important console in the history of the game industry. While other consoles of the time were ambitious and taking steps towards the future in 3D games, Sega was hard-pressed to bounce back and prove that they belonged in the share of the market. And while it didn't go as hoped for the company, the system that was born out of that effort is one that will forever stand out amongst its peers and fans, no matter how much time has been removed. Whether Sega will ever return to the hardware market or not is still completely unknown. But until then, there is one thing I know for sure. The Dreamcast is still thinking. About what exactly? Well, pick one up this year and discover for yourself. If you got to this part of the video, shout out to you. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon and take care. Peace.
Yes! Yeah, not bad.